Toto Africa, the rains that fall upon the plains of Africa, bringing the fuel for tomorrow's food, really, and that's good. If it rains, they feed. If it doesn't rain, they don't feed. What do you think of the asteroid?
Well,
Is that a bit close for comfort? 200,000 miles away between us and our sister planet, the moon, our satellite.
well, I suppose we can think about it, or we can just let it happen, because there's very little we can do about it anyway. So
What would you do if you saw the asteroid coming at you? And you knew, there you saw this big black thing coming across the horizon, and it was as big as 22 football pitches.
I assume you'd just get out of the way, but or at least attempt to. But there's not going to be much chance, so you'd be as well. I don't know.
No. I have great sympathy for the dinosaurs.
Yeah,
because they had this experience.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I suppose, one of the things that, you know, the world has always changed, and it has always been different and moved. And, you know, when they talk about global warming and different things, and I understand that bit of it, and I understand that we're depleting resources quicker than we've ever depleted them. But there has also been other times in the history of the world where ice ages have come and things have warmed up, and it has always, it's constantly changing.
This is Joanne Callan, Destination Wellbeing. Yeah. Do you know what baffles me? You're talking about things that we do, how we abuse the world. I eat very, very little. But every week I have 3 bags of food rubbish, like packing and all the rest of it. Like, what is this about? We don't need it. And I got scallions the other day, spring onions, for those on the Riff-Ryland Road, the Dublin Road, and Cherry Hill, spring onions. But I got scallions, and I made a big mistake. I looked at the label. Bengal. Scallions had come from Bengal.
Yeah,
what am I doing eating scallions out of Tesco from Bengal? It's a nonsense. And I'm going to tell you another thing. Do not buy Bengalese scallions out of Tesco, because they taste like sodden polystyrene. There's no taste of scallion. You know, the stuff you would have plucked from a Camla garden as a girl, as a boy.
They're so easy. I mean, there's certain things. Obviously, we're not going to grow oranges in Ireland, but we can certainly grow scallions.
Depends of what's in your heart.
That's it. Yeah.
If you're of that disposition, be
you
happy.
might, but yes. But you know, there are, I think, food that can be sourced locally should be sourced locally.
And the other thing came up this week: fish, tuna, sustainable fisheries.
Yeah.
Sainsbury's, very, very good, fished with pole and line. That's how they catch their tuna. Tesco, not just quite as good, but very good. The Tesco saying, no, the research that has been provided is wrong. We do it and we do it right. But I think people should do, when you're buying, you should ask for sustainably sourced produce. I think you should also say, when you're buying shampoo, could you give me a shampoo, please, that is not tested on animals?
And more importantly, this week, there's been a huge thing has come out, not necessarily more importantly, but equally as important, around some of the brands that we would know very well in the Procter & Gamble brand, using palm oil, which...
Palm oil destroys economies in the majority world, doesn't it?
And destroys animal lives as well. I mean, I watched a short documentary last night on orangutans and how they've been completely... I
love orangutans.
But they've been orphaned, and you know, the whole area is being destroyed to produce palm oil and there is sustainable and there is ethical palm oil and things like that. But
the big
it's very difficult to get. So.
The big question about orangutans, and it's ever so constantly coming. I want to hug an orangutan the way I wanted to hug my granny. And the big question is, would an orangutan kill me? You know, I know I don't hug a tiger because the tiger wiped me.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
An orangutan is, it just looks nice. You know, you go, bang, and you're gone.
Okay.
You don't want to take that
but
chance.
Some of the wee baby ones, I mean, some of the documentary I watched last night, you know, we're really not a million miles away from you look at them and their behaviours are so human-like, or our behaviours.
Let me see, just don't move. Let's go forward a wee bit.
What are you checking?
Isn't that what they do?
I'm not quite sure.
They groom each other.
I've never had an orangutan do that in my head, Rowan, so it's a new experience.
They pick the things off each other and they eat them. That's it. And then I saw them with a pole going into the honey place, and they'd put the piece of stick down into the hole, and they'd whack, and they'd get the honey out. It's all great.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about
animals,
orangutans?
yeah.
Aren't
And
they
why would we want to harm them? And
No.
then the other thing we had this week as well was Tetley and the tea plantations and human exploitation. So, I think as consumers, and certainly consumers in the Western world, we do have a certain degree of power to make choices that, as you say, are sustainable. And we are society, as Gandhi said, be the change that we want to see in the world, because without us, supermarkets and the producers don't have any product to sell, so they're going to have to give in to consumer demand.
A terrible, there is a reality, and it's awful, and it's almost as though government is prioritizing the big supermarkets, because you're almost taking on a moving carpet into the car parks of the supermarkets, undercover sometimes. You can park for £1 for hours on end and all the rest of it, and you go in, and that's all beautiful, and it's easy, and it's facilitated. But to shop, to buy my carrots and my scallions from Mr. Phillips, I've got to find a parking place. It's likely going to be a mile away. Then I'm going to have to walk to him. And, the lack of parking is discriminating against. But maybe we should all be on bikes. So what are we worrying about parking for?
Well, and we should, I suppose, society has changed quite a lot, but I still think it comes back. Government can dictate to a degree, and they can influence us, but we all have free will and we all have choice at the end of the day, and we can decide and we can educate ourselves on what is happening. And big supermarkets, big corporations in ownership of food supply and medical supply is, for me, I think, a dangerous place for us to be in.
It is indeed.
Unless we take ownership of what we're eating ourselves and ownership of our own health, then we're puppets, really, and we're just being left to.
Your chance of cancer from eating animal protein is as high as from smoking 25 cigarettes a day.
And I think the information there is that it's an excessively high protein diet, and I assume that that's targeting. The research came out of California.
It did.
I believe.
Fat Americans.
Well, and possibly not so much that side of it, but
would you like to be sitting beside one on an airplane flight going to Hong Kong? No.
No, probably not. But the protein diet there, I think, actually is where in recent times, and I assume the California and Los Angeles area was much forced that forward, that it was seen to be a very healthy diet.
Yes.
In eating high protein without carbohydrate. So for the average person eating their average amount of protein that most of us are having, I mean, without having read all of the research, we're probably okay.
Yeah, no alarm bells.
Yeah.
I think you're
right. For the people the sports professionals, a lot of them, and serious people who were taking serious high protein diets to build muscle and do all of that type of thing, I think that's probably where the concern comes in, that there wasn't a balance in their diet. And balance is key in diet. Too much of anything's bad for you, whether that's protein, carbohydrate, fat, whatever it is. But a little bit of everything and a balanced diet is what will sustain health.
I can resist everything but temptation.
Well,
Oscar Wilde, wasn't
we're
it?
in the month of resisting temptation this month, or
the
season
I went out
of
to
Lent.
dinner last night on Ash Wednesday, but I mean, I kind of think it's not about giving up; it's about doing other things.
Interestingly, just at Mass
a
the other
mixed
day.
economy.
Yeah, I think and it doesn't have to be about giving up, or it can be given up regret, it can be given up guilt, it can be given up feelings, it can be bringing in more happiness into your life, or there's a whole wide range of interpretation. But at Mass the other day, I noticed the priest interestingly said, Lent isn't about us being so bad, it's about God being so good. And I thought that was a nice spin on it, that we're not giving up anything, or we're not sacrificing because we're these awful, horrible people that have lived wrong lives and we need to make penance for it. But it's actually in recognition of the good that we have in life. And
And that's, the commandment wasn't to go off chocolate. The commandment was to love your neighbour, full stop. And if we do that,
the
it's
key
okay.
part, to love your neighbour as yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's also the bit that we often miss, right from whether I'm talking to, just last week I was with a group of P5, so 10, 11-year-olds, or 9, 10-year-olds. And I use star cards with them, and so it'll be I'm a happy star today, or I'm a confident star, or and one of them was I'm a lovely star today. I'm a lovely star today. I will love myself.
Wow, that's a nice idea.
Instantly within the group came the giggles from the rest of the group, because this one individual that you would love yourself. And I thought, that's a really sad place that society
has placed these children
at 9 and 10 years of age.
They see something like
wrong
this in loving yourself.
Themselves. Because, as you say, the commandment was love your neighbour as yourself. And if it doesn't start with ourselves, and certainly if it doesn't start within young children, then where society can go in the future is possibly cause for concern.
I heard someone say the other day that Pope Francis is going to create 4 female cardinals. You wouldn't think of going for one of them, would you? Because you don't have to be a priest or anything. Just you have to be a sensible woman.
Oh my God!
But you have a great sensibleness to you. You have a great wisdom.
No, I think
for one so young, it's
bypass
amazing.
That one for a while.
I think you'd be very wise. Oh, you note the qualification for a while.
For a while, and see how it pans out. But
now, talk to me about the program today.
Today's show, I have a wonderful lady called Diana Miller on, and Diana sadly lost 2 baby daughters, and in very late stage pregnancy at 30.5 weeks.
That's
twin
heartbreaking.
girls. But as a result of that tragedy and that sadness, has set up a foundation called the Molly and Maya Foundation, and to really help and assist families in living through grief and getting back into life and into, I suppose, a state of happiness and joy that can come after grief and sadness, and moving through that, but whilst never forgetting. So I suppose the feel of the Molly and Maya Foundation for me was that it had a lovely blend between remembering and living.
Yeah.
That mix between the two. So a very interesting and certainly very inspiring conversation that will take place today with Diana.
I will watch that. The Sands group do that as well.
Yes.
They're fantastic too.
Yeah.
And I know of one couple at the moment. They lost a child just before Christmas, I believe, and they were so happy that this baby was coming. And at again, an advanced stage of the pregnancy, the baby was lost. They were heartbroken.
Yeah, it's very sad, and it's another one of those things that really isn't talked about. Very in great detail. There's still a, and I suppose that comes from people's own fears around dealing with it and things like that. And often as well, women can lose babies quite early on in pregnancy, where maybe nobody even knows that they're pregnant, but perhaps particularly and it affects everybody differently. But I know some couples who've maybe really been waiting quite a long time for pregnancy, and then they get pregnant, and then the baby's lost in the early stages. It can be very difficult.
But I have the experience of it within my own family, not my own children, but with in-laws who've lost babies, and it's a traumatic time.
It is. But the support structures are there, and as I said, as you said, the Sands is a great organisation, and the Molly and Maya Foundation as well. So,
okay, that's today.
That's today at 3 p.m. Yeah, but as I said, I mean, when I spoke with Diana, her triumph in adversity is really admirable, and she's been able to take a very tragic situation and turn it into something, and we have a real community hub now as well that reaches out to all families. And
I think this might be helpful if we can inculcate the notion of the temporary nature of being here. Whether the baby dies at 30 weeks or the human being dies at 92, that's only a blink.
yeah.
So you've got to contextualize it in the timeline of the universe, if you like.
Well, that's it. But I suppose for anybody who maybe lives to 92, and I was talking to somebody the other day, and their granddad had just turned 97.
Yeah.
I suppose there's a certain acceptance that they've lived their life, and that's, you know, that they've had a good one in the time frame that we have as humans.
They've done
but
well.
we've done and had an opportunity to live life, but there's a certain degree of grief and sadness when those babies haven't had a chance to live their lives. But
once again, you've brought gentleness, wisdom, kindness, understanding into my studio. Thank you.
Thank you.
3 o'clock today.
3 o'clock today. And hopefully some humour as you tapped my head this morning
I
as an
have
orangutan.
to say, her head is shimmering. If I were a hungry orangutan, I would get absolutely no food at the top of that
I'm
woman's
sure my
head.
face was a picture while that was happening. Dee can either confirm that or not, but my face usually gives a lot away as to what I'm actually thinking. So it'll be an interesting one to watch back on.
We'll have some music, and then we will take you back into the news hub.